Now we're going to take a look at graphing a system of equations and also at the same time finding the number of solutions. So actually this is pretty simple if you know how to graph. The key thing with the graphing, it needs to be in y equals. Okay, so you see y equals is already there, but it would have to be in y equals mx plus b. What's m again? The slope. So I'm just going to write it as rise over run. And what's b? Where it crosses the y-intercept, where it crosses the y-axis. So those are the big two things that I need to remember. It's already y equals, so you just need to graph. I go to where y is equal to 6. That's what I'm doing. So here's my y. Where is y equals 6? Right there. Now, the question is, do I draw a line going this way, or do I draw a line going this way? Here's how you're going to remember it. You only can have y equals 6, nothing else. So if I draw a line going this way, I have y equals 4, y equals 2, y equals 0, y equals negative 2. So that's wrong. I gotta do it this way. Because at that point, y, it's only 6. It doesn't touch the y anywhere else but 6. That's what you need to think. Y is equal to 6. So that's my first line. So you see my blue line is y equals 6. Then I'm going to click on the yellow one, and I need to do y equals negative 3. So I go to the y-axis. Where is y negative 3? It's down here. And then I think if I'm going this way, it can only touch at negative 3. But if I do it up and down, it's touching everywhere on this y-axis. So it means I need to do it horizontally, because horizontal is only touching there. Now your question is, how many solutions does this have? So anytime that you have two lines that are parallel to one another, they have no solutions. In other words, it's where they cross that's a solution. So where do these cross? They never do. So that is no solution to that question. Now, a good point to make is if they gave you this in graph form, you always look for if your slope is parallel. So I'm going to say it right here. If your slope is parallel, there's no solution. Because what that means is these two lines are never going to meet, because a parallel slope means the line never meets. Okay? So if the slope is parallel, there's no solution. And I'll come up with some other stuff as we go along. So no solution, enter. All right, graph these two equations. So again, it's already in y equals mx plus b, so that's great. So let's go ahead and graph it, and I'm going to show you how to do this in a calculator in a few, so make sure you don't click off. Watch this whole thing. So y equals, and then we have whatever is before the m, whatever is attached to the m is your rise over run. So there's nothing attached physically to this x, so it's an invisible what? It's an invisible 1 over 1. And remember, we have to make it a fraction because we have to rise and then run. So anytime there's no number there, it's an invisible 1 over 1, because 1 divided by 1 is 1. And you can say I have one apple, or you can say I have an apple. It's the same thing. So 1 over 1. So, and then plus the y-intercept. So this is the y-intercept because plus b. So this is where it crosses the y-axis. So you're going to go to plus 1 on the y-axis, so which is right there. And then you're going to rise 1 and go over 1. So rise 1, go over 1, and put your point there. And that's your line. On the second one, so I'm going to click the purple line. On the second one, we need to make this a fraction. If it's just a number, not a fraction, how do I make that a fraction? By putting a 1 underneath. And why? Because 2 divided by 1 is still 2. So this doesn't change anything, but it helps me do my rise over run. So again, you start at your y-intercept, which is the number by itself, which is 3. So start at your y-intercept, put a point, and then you're going to rise what? You're going to go up 2 because it's positive, and right 1 because it's positive. Those are your two lines. Once you have your two lines, your solution, if you have a solution, is where they intersect. So where do these two lines meet? In other words, where do they cross? Like right there. What's that point? So I'm going to mark that point on the computer. Again, do not write on my school computers. All right, that's negative 2, because you always do, because you're always going to do x and then y, right? So the solution, if you had to write this question down, would be negative 2 and negative 1. That will be your solution. But this is asking how many solutions are there. So you'll get some questions that tell you what is the solution, but this question is asking how many solutions. So it has one solution because it has one point where they cross. All right, graph these equations. Again, the first step is to always make it into y equals mx plus b, which it is. it's already in y equals mx plus b. In other words, y is by itself on the left-hand side with no numbers. It's already there. So all you gotta do is graph those 2 points, and wherever they meet is your solution. So first thing we gotta do is we gotta make it a fraction, rise over run. So how do I make 4x into a fraction? You put a 1 underneath. Again, 4 divided by 1 is still 4, so it doesn't change it. Then over here, I have negative 4, make it a fraction, negative 4 over 1, because negative 4 divided by 1 is negative 4. And I have a number here. Now, just as a point of reference, if I didn't have a number here, like if I had y equals just 4x, I would put my 1 there, but there's no number here. So because there's no number here, my intercept would be plus 0. Okay, so just like a side note. All right, so I'm gonna start at my y-intercept. That's how I graph equation slope-intercept form. I start at my y-intercept, which in this case is 3. So here's my y, I go to 3. Then I rise 4 over 1. They're both positive, so it means I'm going up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then I'm going to go right because it's positive 1. Put another point and I'm done. Graph in the second line, so click on the second line, and you're going to do the same thing. This time it's negative 4. So instead of going up 4 because it's negative, I'm going to go down. But what do I start at? What number do I start at? I start at negative 5. So you always start at your y-intercept, negative 5. Then you do rise over run. I'm going to go down 4, negative 1, 2, 3, 4, and then right 1 because that's positive. Right 1, positive. Those are my 2 lines. Then look. This is my solution, negative 1, negative 1. In case that's the question, I'm going to say it every time. But the question is, how many solutions does it have? How many times does it cross? 1. So 1 time, 1 solution. All right, cool. These are even better because they've already put it in a fraction, so my rise over run is already done. I don't have to do anything. I just start the question. So I go to negative 4 because that's where I start. So where's negative 4? On the y-axis because that's my y-intercept. And then I'm going to negative 1. What does that mean? Remember, it's always y, it's always rise, and then run, okay? Get out of your seat before you get out of my classroom. That's why we're going to remember that. Get out of your seat before you get out of my classroom. So negative 1 means I'm going to go down 1 because it's negative, and then positive 3 means I'm going to go right 3. 1, 2, 3. Lord, my computer's having issues. All right, so then graph my second equation, so click on my second one. And then it's already, the rise over run's done for you. So where do I start? I start at negative 3. So I'm gonna go to negative 3. So here's negative 3, and I clicked on, I clicked on my second line, negative 3. And then I'm going to rise negative 1. So rise negative means I go down 1. And then positive 3 means I go right, 1, 2, 3. All right, look at the 2 lines. They never meet, so what does that mean? It does not have a solution. Bam. All right. Oh, this is perfect. So remember when I said that there was just an x there, but there was no number? What's that y-intercept if there's no number there? How do I say there's no number? What number means nothing? 0. So I'm just going to put that in there. So I'm going to say plus 0. All right, so I've got my y equals mx plus b. So now I look up, make sure I can write as a fraction, so I can do slope as a fraction. So I need rise over run over this. And when I don't have anything there, it's an invisible what? 1 over 1. Now it's negative, so make sure you keep that negative. So negative 1 over 1. Because negative 1 divided by 1 is 1. And instead of saying I have 1 apple or negative 1 apple, I have an apple is the same thing. On the second one, same thing, invisible negative 1 over 1 because it was already negative. And now that I have it in fractions, I can graph it. So the first one is you start at 0, because there was no number there. And then I'm going to go down 1, because it's negative 1, right 1, positive 1. My second line, so I click on my second line. Oh, I don't even have to look up there, but I wrote it down, so I'm going to look up there. My second line is I start at 6, so my y-intercept is 6. Then I'm going to go down 1, right 1. Look at the 2 lines. Is there a solution? If they're parallel again, there's what? No solution. So if they're parallel, it's no solution. All right? Graph these equations. Oh, these are easy because I'm going to go to y, where y is equal to 3. Well, y is equal to 3, and I'm going to make sure it does not have any other values of y, just y. It only touches y at 3. So I can't draw a line going down this way because it's touching every y number there is. So I have to draw it horizontal because it's only touching y at 3. Same thing with this line, so go to my second line. And I have x is equal to -5. So this time it's x, so I go to x, -5, and it can only touch at -5. So if I draw it this way, it's touching all these other numbers on the x-axis. So it must be that I go up this way. So looking at that, where they intersect is my solution. So my solution is -5, 3, if that was the question. But the question is just how many solutions does this have? And the question answer is just it has one solution. All right, graph these equations. Now, when you come to these equations, you can do one of two things. You can make them y equals, like this one's already y equals. So in that one, I just need to make the slope the fraction. So it's going to be over 1, right? Or, so that one's easy. So let me graph that one first. So it's the blue line. So I'm going to do that blue line. It starts at -6, and it's going to go down because of negative, down 2, and then right 1. So my rise over 1. My green line, I'm going to press that. Two ways I can do this. I can rearrange this to make y the subject on the left. So how do I do that? I move this to the other side. And when I cross my river, right? When I cross my river, what happens at 2x? It changes to -2x. So I've got y equals -2x. And then what do I have? What number do I have? -6. So now I've got my y equals. So I can graph it by making this a fraction as usual. Starting at -6, so -6. So my green line starts there, and then I'm going to go down 2, and right 1. Bam. What can you tell me about these lines? They're exactly the same. Because they are exactly the same, the question is, remember, so where the two lines intersect, that's the solution, right? So if they intersect once, it'll be one solution, right? But this is just touching every single time. So what can I say? That it has infinity many solutions. It has infinity many solutions because it touches everywhere. Okay. Now, if you wanted to graph this, I'm just gonna show it to you. But if you understood that, just ignore this next part. Instead of making y equals, a lot of the times we can use, my favorite method, which is, graphing by intercepts, and we can just cover this up. And so if I was, let me take my green line off. So if I was graphing my green line, okay, so I had my blue line because it's already y equals, that's easy, right? If I was graphing this and I didn't want to solve for y equals, what I could do is see if solving by intercepts work. So I would cover what I don't want, so I don't want x. So I've got y equals what? -6. So I go to, so y equals -6, that's where it intercepts, right? And then when I'm solving for my x-intercept, I cover up y. So when I cover up y, I have 2x equals -6. Divide by 2, that crosses out. X equals negative divided by positive is a negative, so -3. I've got y equals -6 and x equals -3. So that's what I do. I go to x equals -3, which is right there. I put a point there. I go to y equals -6, which is right there. I put a point there. And you can see it gives me that exact same graph. So two options you have when you have this kind of question. You can make it y equals, or you can solve by finding the intercepts by covering up one side or the other. All right, it still gives you the same answer as the point. All right, so this one is already in y equals. So anytime it's already in y equals, I just go ahead and graph that. And then they've already made it a fraction. So rise over run is already down for me. So let me go ahead and do this line. So green line, and then it starts at 7. So it starts at 7. And then I'm going to do what? It says go down 2, 1, 2, and right 1, 2, 3. So that's what I did. Bam, done. Okay, this line, you can make it y equals, or you can do it by intercepts. So for this question, I'll do both. But I'll start off with my favorite, which is intercepts. So you cover up what you don't have. You have 3y equals -18. So you have 3y equals -18. How do I get y by itself? I divide by 3, divide by 3. Y equals -6. So that's where I'm going to go put my first point. So y, so here's y, -6, bam. Okay. My second point will be put I cover up y, then I have 2x, I write down what I see, -18. Divide both sides by 2. So I'm going to get x equals negative divided by positive is a negative, -9. So now I go to where x is equal to -9, x is equal to -9, and make a point. Bam, graphed. What can you tell me about these two lines? they are what? They are parallel, which means they never meet. There's no solution because they never meet. So no solution. Okay, now you could have graphed that exact same line by solving for y over here. So let's do that. So I'm just going to write this down for you. 2x plus 3y equals negative 18. Draw your river. Take this to the other side, it becomes what? Negative, right? So 3y equals negative 2x minus 18. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. Divide by 3. That goes away. Y equals negative 2 over 3x. Then negative 18 divided by 3 is negative 6. And what that means is you start at negative 6, right? So here's my negative 6, and then you're going to go down 2, right 3. Down 2. 1, 2, right 3. 1, 2, 3. Bam. Point here, makes the exact same line. So whichever one your preference is, you can go ahead and do that. All right, so now the next one I'm going to show you, I'm going to actually just put it in the graphing calculator. So this is how the calculator can just do it for you. All right, now you might need to take notes because this might be the first time that you're learning this. So you've got y equals, and what it is, how it says graph, you need to go to graph y equals, right? So you see where it says y equals on the top? I'm going to hit that. It's going to give you this. If there's something over there already, you can press clear. Then you can navigate up and down, right and left, however you want. And you press clear. I'm on the equal sign, so it won't clear. So I'm going to go right and clear. So everything is cleared out. Then I'm going to go to write this out. Now, important thing is when you put fractions, you have to put parentheses. Okay, anytime you put in fractions in here, put parentheses. So I've got 1 over, and how do I say over? Divided by 5. Okay, close parentheses. So anytime you have a fraction, always put it in parentheses. Then you've got x. Oh, this is the x. So it's right underneath mode, that's x. And it's going to say x. Okay, minus 5. Okay, and that is going to graph that first line. Then you're going to press down down. So that's down. And then you're going to put this one in. So you have y2, second line equals. Now you need a fraction, so fraction's always going to be in parentheses. 1 over 5, so 1 divided by 5. Close your parentheses because you're done with your fraction. The letter x, and again, x is this big old x that says over here underneath mode. X, and then you're going to say minus 6. And when you press graph right here, it's going to graph it. Now, I'm going to press graph, and it's going to graph it. If it doesn't work out to where you're seeing this, you need to fix your window, okay? You need to fix your window. So I'm going to teach you how to fix your window, and there's a faster way of doing this. I'm trying to remember what it is. Was it second? Hold on a sec. I think it's second standard. So if you press, I'll show you how to do let me show you how to do manually. Quick window. What window means, so I'm going to go back to graph. What window means is like this is a window right here. Like how far do you want to see the x-axis on the left, on the right, and the y up and down. So right now I have it set to -10 on the left, -10 on the right, and -10 down and -10 up, and going up in one increment. So if I go to window, you'll see my x minimum is -10. But let's say I just wanted to take a closer look. So let me say I wanted to make that, and it's very important that you use the negative, not a minus. Let me say I wanted to make, so I'm going to clear that and make my window -5, which means the x is only going to go to the left 5. I want my max to be +5. I'm just changing it to change it. And then it goes up by 1. This is the x. On my y, I can do the exact same thing. It starts at -5 on the bottom, goes up to +5, and then it changes by 1. And if I press graph, you see how my graph has become, you see these points? It's zoomed in on that place. Now, if you just want to reset it like real quick, if you press second, and then you press... Let's see if I can figure out what it is. I can't remember how to do it right now, so I'm just going to do it as... and anytime you get like stuck, okay, you can just switch off the calculator. Go second, and then the on button, which will turn it off. Put it back on, and it's back. So to get to where I was y equals, right? Go to my window. And you saw that my window, I didn't really see my graph. So I'm going to change it back, so -10. Ooh. And you see, because I wrote minus, it gives me an error. So I'm going to go to down to go to, press enter, and I'm going to change that minus sign to a -10. maximum is 10, going up in 1, negative 10, going up to 10, going up in 1, and when I graph it, you'll be able to see my two graphs. They are parallel. So how many solutions does that have? No solution. Okay, unfortunately, IXL's not going to let you put no solution and move on because they're also grading your ability to graph this. So what we're going to try and see, yeah, we're just going to have to graph that by hand actually because you can't really see it so clear to make it exact, can you? Yeah, we're just going to graph it. But that's a good way to check your answer. If the question didn't require you to graph it, then you could have just pressed enter on whatever that answer was. So let's go ahead and graph it. So we have a fraction already, we're good. We have an intercept, so we're good. So we start at -5, so there's going to be this line right here. And if you make a mistake, just click on it, it goes away. So -5. And we're going to go up 1, right 5. My second line, start at -6. We're going to go up 1, right 5. You can see those are the two lines that I had in the calculator. No solution because they're parallel. Okay. This, again, I'm going to do it by what? By intercepts. So I have 2y is equal to -4. Okay. 2y equals -4. And again, you can just solve for y, but I like to do it this way. Divide by 2. So y equals -2. So I'm going to go to -2 on y. Then I'm going to do the same thing for x. X is what? -4. So that's easy. X is -4. Bam. My line is done. Go to my second line. Same thing. I've got 2y equals 2. Divide by 2. Y equals 1. So my second line, y is equal to 1. Block that out. I've got x is equal to 2. So x is equal to 2. And there's my line. They are parallel. Do they meet? No. So how many solutions does it have? It has no solution. All right, I'm just going to do one more. Graph this equation. It's already in y equals. It's not a fraction, so I'm going to make it a fraction by putting an invisible 1. Okay, it's going to start at 5. So start at 5. Oh, sorry, you don't need this. So start at 5. Here's 5. And I'm going to go down to right 1. This one started at -5. And I can already tell you, okay, so a couple of shortcuts that I forgot to mention. Remember, if it has the same, it has the same slope, okay, like this means the same slope. It could be parallel or it could be the same line, but it's definitely like this because the slope is different. Any other line but some line going in this direction exactly this way is different. So the same thing you do, what you do is you look at this number right here. If it has different intercepts, okay, so let's just say, and again, this is not going to be the right slope because first of all, I'm doing a positive and it's going down. Let's just say I draw a line going at 5, so it does that. The second one goes at -5, so it's done that. So I can see that they're what? They are parallel. So if I didn't have to graph this, I can solve this without even looking at it. Okay, because they have the same slope, I know they have to look the same in terms of the direction that they're going and how they're going there. So because they have different y-intercepts, they're parallel. If they have the same y-intercept, it would be the same line. So different y-intercepts with the same slope, parallel, no solution. Same y-intercepts with the same slope, infinitively many solutions because it's the same line. So I already know the answer to this one, and I'm going to double check it by graphing it for you. This is the same slope, so they could be parallel to the same line, but because they have different intercepts, they are parallel, which means no solution. Now I'm going to prove that to you. So graphing the second one, again, there's no fraction, so make it a 1. Start at -5, so start at -5, and you're going down 2 because it's negative, and right 1. And you can see they are parallel because they have the same slope, but they just have different y-intercepts. So it's no solution. And look at this. Say it's going to be the same thing here. You're going to have the same slope. Once you rearrange this, you're going to have the same slope, and you're going to have different y-intercepts. So it's going to be, and the reason I know that is because I can move this, I can move this in my head like moving. Let me show you actually. Move the 2x to the other side. It's going to be 5y equals -2x equals, oh, sorry, plus 10 because I moved this to the other side, right? Divide by 5. So y equals that, okay? move this one to the other side as well. So it's going to be negative 5y equals negative 2x plus 10 divided by negative 5. Okay, so that's going to be positive, negative divided by negative is positive, right? So you're going to have y equals 2 over 5x, and then 10 divided by negative 5 is negative 2. On this one, you're going to have y equals negative 2 over 5x. 10 divided by 5 is positive 2. Okay, so careful, these are not the same slope, but they're not even perpendicular. So I can tell you that this is going to cross it one time, but let me prove it to you. I'll do it by, since I already solved for y, I'm just going to graph it here. Here's my fraction, there's my y-intercept, so plus 2. So 2 is where it crosses, and then I'm going to go down to right 5. On my second line, here's my final y equals, it's going to start at negative 2, and I'm going to go up to positive 5. And you can see what? It intercepts at one solution. The thing is, because the slopes are different, it's not going to be infinitively more or no solution. It's not going to be parallel, and it's not going to be the same line. So it's going to always be one solution because you're dealing with a linear function. And I guess you can get it from there. So one solution, that's it.